Discover the most devastating love story ever told. It will shock you at midnight. The old clock tower loomed above the shadowy streets, its gnarled hands ticking ominously towards the witching hour. The night was thick, like a heavy shroud, wrapping the small town in a tense silence, broken only by the sudden shatter of glass. In the heart of it all, a love story brewed like a storm, hidden under layers of mystery and whispered rumors. Emily, with her fiery red hair and heart-stopping smile, had everyone captivated. But it wasn't just her beauty, it was the dark secret that followed her like a ghost. She was found clutching a faded letter in front of a crumbling mansion, the very symbol of her family's tragic past. Every rumor painted her family as cursed. Her mother had vanished without a trace, leaving behind inexplicable happenings. People swore they saw her wandering the woods at night, her silhouette flickering like a candle fighting against the wind. And then, there was Luke. He was the local bad boy, with stormy eyes and a bad reputation, yet the way he looked at Emily sent shivers down spines. His heart carried secrets too, wrapped tightly in a haze of smoke that clung to his leather jacket. Then, on that fateful night, when the clock struck midnight, a bone-chilling scream cut through the air, echoing off the walls of the townsfolk's homes. Hearts raced and breaths caught in throats as they gathered, eyes wide with disbelief. What had happened? Why was Emily found collapsed on the steps of the mansion, clutching a charm that shimmered with an eerie glow? All at once, the crowd turned their gaze to Luke, who was lurking under the streetlight, his hands trembling. The tension thickened, a palpable pulse of fear and intrigue. As the whispers grew, confusion mingled with horror. The townspeople swept in, murmuring about hexes and curses. Someone gasped. "Do you think they're finally coming for us?" They didn't know. They couldn't know. Shadows danced along the cobblestone, and the air was electric with unspoken words, secrets left unsaid. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air felt heavy, thick with anticipation as Luke stepped forward, eyes locked on Emily. There was something in his gaze, a mix of desperation and regret. Was he connected to her mother's disappearance? Did he know more than he implied? As the clock continued its relentless ticking, the crowd held its breath, wondering what the truth would reveal. Would love survive in such a tumultuous storm? And even more pressing, what had become of Emily? As the night deepened, the haunting question lingered: who would pay the ultimate price for love? Luke's heart raced, each beat echoing the petrified whispers of the crowd. In that moment, he locked eyes with Emily. Her vibrant hair framed her pale face, and the charm clutched in her delicate fingers shimmered with an unholy light. The crowd surged toward her, a sea of fear and curiosity pressing in closer, an avalanche of unanswered questions looming over them. "Emily!" Luke shouted, his voice a raw edge amidst the chaos. "Please, can you hear me?" He stepped forward, each stride rooted in urgency. But as he crossed the threshold into the dim light spilling from the mansion's cracked doorway, the air grew thick with foreboding. Emily's eyes fluttered open, revealing a storm of confusion and terror. When she met his gaze, he felt a connection that made the world around them fade away. "Luke," she whispered, her voice breaking like glass. He knelt beside her, instinctively reaching to take her hand. It felt cold, almost lifeless. "What happened?" he asked, panic rising like bile in his throat. She opened her mouth, but no sound came. Instead, a raspy attempt at laughter escaped, haunting and hollow. The charm in her hand pulsed, a heartbeat of its own, and Luke's breath caught. Behind him, the townsfolk continued to murmur, eyes darting toward the mansion, whispering about its dark history. "It's the mansion. It's cursed. Someone shrieked, a spark of panic igniting the crowd. Others echoed the sentiment, each word twisting the air tighter with fear. Luke turned, frustration boiling. Stop. We need to help her. But their eyes were fixed on the mansion itself, as if expecting shadows to spark to life. He didn't have time for their hysteria. He focused back on Emily, willing her to respond. Did you see her? Emily gasped, a flicker of realization sparking in her eyes. My mother, she was here. The words tumbled from her lips like stones dropped into water, rippling through Luke's heart. Memories of Emily's stories came rushing back, the tales of her mother's mysterious disappearance, the rumors of her ghostly wanderings. Where did she go? Frantic, Luke squeezed her hand tighter, feeling warmth begin to radiate from her grasp. But the light in her eyes began to flicker, shadows dancing across her face, and he could see the weight upon her, the burden of whatever dark knowledge had been shared between them. As the clock's hands edged closer to midnight, a resonating chime echoed through the air, breaking the silence like a spider web torn apart. With an intensity that made Luke's skin prickle, the charm began to glow brighter. Luke, it's coming, she gasped, eyes wide with terror. The crowd fell silent, an impending dread thick enough to taste. What's coming? He felt his guts twist, a cold dread pooling in his stomach. But before she could utter another word, a heavy rumble echoed from the mansion. The ground trembled beneath their feet, a deep, primal sound swelling like thunder. Then, the doors of the mansion burst wide open, revealing a darkness that clawed at the light, hungry and fierce. The crowd scattered, some screaming while others stood transfixed, paralyzed by the encroaching darkness that poured out like smoke. Run! Luke yelled, but the words tasted futile against the overwhelming fear gripping his heart. Emily's hand slipped from his grasp, and in that brief moment of chaos, he watched her get pulled back into the shadows. Emily! He shouted, but it was too late. As he stumbled forward, the darkness surged, swallowing the light and filling his mind with icy dread. In that instant, the clock struck midnight, the sound reverberating through the very essence of the night. Shadows danced, warping the reality around him. He knew in that moment, everything was about to change. Who will pay the ultimate price for love? The shadows whispered, and Luke understood they were the ones seeking answers. What he didn't know was that the truth would be more terrifying than the fear they faced tonight, and the clock was counting down. The darkness swallowed Luke whole, a suffocating blanket that constricted his chest and clouded his thoughts. The crowd's screams faded into a distant echo, replaced by a chilling silence that wrapped around him. He felt a persistent tingle crawling up his spine, the sensation of being watched, hunted. Emily! He called again, his voice barely a whisper in the engulfing night. Panic stewed in his gut, churning like a storm. He staggered into the maw of the mansion, driven by desperation, by a need to pull her back from wherever she had been taken. Inside, the air was impossibly still. A faint, flickering candlelight illuminated intricate carvings on the walls, shadows flitting over echoes of a forgotten past. The grand hall yawned before him, expanses of darkness filling the corners like lurking phantoms. Dust motes hovered, illuminated by the weak light, each one dancing in a ghostly rhythm. Emily! His voice broke through the silence, firm and urgent. He strained to listen for the sound of her voice, for any sign of hope. Where are you? But no answer came. Instead, the shadows around him began to shift, coiling and writhing as if alive. A chill prickled at his skin, and he instinctively took a step backward. The heavy air thickened, almost stifling, and he could feel the old wood beneath his feet creak in protest. He walked deeper, his heart thrumming wildly, each beat echoed by the ominous silence. A sudden, sharp sound sliced through the darkness, a soft footfall, almost like a whisper. Emily? He turned quickly, his breath hitching in his throat. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the deep shadows at the far end of the hall. It was a woman, her long, dark hair cascading around her shoulders, deep sorrow etched into her features. Luke locked eyes with her, and a jolt of recognition sent chills down his spine. It was Emily's mother. Help me, she mouthed, though no sound reached him. Her eyes, wide and pleading, flickered with a desperate urgency as she pointed toward an arched doorway concealed in the shadows. Just beyond it, he felt a pull, an indescribable dread mixed with an overwhelming urge to follow. Against all instincts, he stepped forward. The shadows seemed to reach for him, whispering promises of knowledge and power. "Emily!" he cried, fighting back the urge to run. But with each advance, he felt his resolve waning. The darkness beckoned him, pulling him forward. He rushed through the archway, and the room beyond was vast and filled with strange symbols carved into stone. A pulsating energy filled the air, palpable and alive. In the center stood a pedestal with an intricate book, pages fluttering as if stirred by an unseen wind. Glowing runes danced along the edges, and Luke could feel the electricity in the air. Before he could edge closer, a deafening roar shook the foundations of the mansion. The walls trembled violently. A vision of Emily, trapped within a wall of shadows, rushed to his mind. He stumbled backward, the sight knocking the breath from his lungs. The book. It could be the key to her survival, the key to understanding whatever malevolent force had ensnared them all. As if reading his mind, the woman's spirit lowered her head. "You must decide," she whispered, breathless and faint. "Sacrifice for love, or lose her forever." Luke's heart thudded. The choice before him was relentless. It snaked through his thoughts like a creeping vine. He could feel Emily's presence fading, her light dimming with each passing heartbeat. With trembling hands, he reached for the book, knowing that the darkness beyond would not let him go easily. The clock continued to tick ominously in the back of his mind, counting down to a moment he feared could seal his fate. "Luke!" A voice echoed, jagged and frantic. It was Emily's. He turned, but the shadows twisted, and everything around him fell into chaos. The choice was clear, but the consequences? They held a weight he could barely understand. What price was he willing to pay to save her? And more haunting still, what horrors awaited him in that cursed book? Luke's fingers brushed the cover of the book, ice-cold and slick with an unnatural sheen. An inexplicable dread washed over him. Should he open it? Was this how Emily's mother had ended up here, caught in a web of darkness? "Luke!" Emily's voice fractured the tension, sharper than any cut. He turned again, searching desperately through the swirling shadows for her figure. "Help!" It was a plea laced with terror, pulling him into a frantic spiral. He could feel her, a ghostly warmth in the shivering cold of the mansion, but her presence was fading fast. He gripped the book tighter. Fear twisted inside him, but so did determination. The flickering light from the candles wavered, and the air thickened, suffocating in its weight. He took a deep breath, forcing himself to concentrate. "What have I got to lose?" he murmured, and he pulled the book open. The pages fluttered wildly as if a storm had blown through, the ancient symbols glaring up at him. Words swam in a blurred frenzy, but one phrase caught his eye: the bond must break for the light to return. The meaning of those words pierced his heart like a shattering glass. Was he to sacrifice their love to save Emily? "Don't!" The spirit of Emily's mother gasped, her image flickering like an old film reel. "It's a trap." Luke's pulse raced like a drum in his ears. How could he trust whispers gliding through the shadows? But what if this was all he had? He turned the pages, trying to decipher the spell, feeling the chilling grasp of the shadows close and around him. The mansion groaned, the walls vibrating with an ominous life of their own. A clear vision crashed into his mind again: Emily, struggling against the tendrils of dark tendrils that wrapped around her, her heart's last flicker fighting against the dark. "Stay with me, Em." He called out to the darkness, to her, fighting his tears. "I'll bring you back. I promise." As the runes absorbed the candlelight, they flared with vivid colors, swirling into a melancholic dance. The energy in the room pulsed, and with each moment, the shadows grew stronger, tendrils snaking around his feet, pulling him back. "Let her go!" he shouted, thrusting the book away as he felt the floor beneath him shift, as if it were swallowing him into the abyss. He had to dig deeper, to break free from this dark enchantment. His mind raced. What if the sacrifice wasn't he for love itself, but for his own fear of losing it? Darkness thrives on fear, echoed the spirit, urgency igniting her face. You must become the light. His heart thundered with urgency. To save Emily, he had to understand what it truly meant to let go of the fear that shackled him. With newfound resolve, he steadied himself amidst the chaos. He focused, pulling every ounce of love he felt for Emily towards him. The shadows recoiled, screeching, as the light within him began to glow. The energy pulsed through his body, filling every crack and crevice with fierce, burning warmth. Emily! He roared, channeling all his fears, all his joys, into a blazing beacon. The shadows howled, retreating slightly, but they were relentless. They lashed out, tugging at him, howling with fury. Just as despair threatened to tether him to that darkness, he pushed forward, blasting the essence of love into the air. The book burst open wide, pages flipping violently, the ancient words emerging with a deafening roar. They merged with his desperate cry, resonating through the room. As the light expanded, the shadows shriveled, hissing like venomous snakes drowning in the sunshine. But in that flashing moment of triumph, a blinding explosion sent waves of energy crashing around him. He staggered, fighting to hold on. No! He shouted, struggling against the blast. But among the chaos, he could already feel the ground slipping beneath him, the visions of Emily fading into swirling blackness. Would he have enough strength to pull her back? Would his risk summon salvation or despair? Emily! The call echoed defiantly as darkness consumed him, then everything went black. What will emerge from the shadows to greet him when the light returns? Luke jolted awake, gasping, heart racing. He blinked against the overwhelming darkness surrounding him. An eerie silence enveloped the space, thick as the fog outside the mansion's ancient walls. His skin prickled with cold dread. Was it over? Had he failed? Struggling to gather himself, he pushed against the ground, but it felt almost as if he was sinking into a heavy, suffocating fog. Panic coiled around his chest. Emily! He shouted, voice echoing into the void. No answer. Only his own words returned to him, a cruel reminder of his solitude. With effort, Luke forced himself to stand. The shadows tightened around him, pressing like icy fingers against his back. Breathing hard, he searched the engulfing darkness for any sign of light, of her. Where are you, Em? Each word felt like it might be swallowed whole by the nothingness. Suddenly, he spotted a tiny, flickering light in the distance. Desperation propelled him forward, willing his legs to move. The shadows whipped around him, making every step a battle. They tugged at him, whispering his fears, mocking his determination. You can't bring her back, it's hopeless. They echoed with sinister glee. No. He gritted his teeth, pushing through the suffocating pressure, focusing on the light. I'm coming for you, Emily. He dug deep, calling forth every memory of her laughter, her smile, the way her eyes sparkled when she was happy. The light pulsed ahead, drawing him in like a moth. With each step, it grew brighter, revealing intricacies of the shadowy realm he navigated. Shapes twisted in the corners of his vision, fleeting and monstrous, shaking his resolve with their terrifying forms. As he advanced, the soft glow morphed into a flickering flame. A haunting melody broke through the silence, weaving through the shadows. It seemed like a lullaby, calling him closer, but beneath it, he sensed something amiss. The shadows stirred uneasily, as if aware that he was drawing near. Emily! He shouted again, his voice breaking. The shadows froze, then twisted violently, recoiling. I won't give up. At last, he stumbled into a clearing, where the light flared larger, illuminating a figure at its heart. It was Emily, suspended in the midst of the glow, her expression serene yet distant. Her chest rose and fell gently, but she was shrouded in a gossamer cocoon of shimmering darkness. Luke, she whispered, a sound so faint it seemed to lace with the wind. Help me! A surge of warmth erupted within him, chasing away the shadows threatening to creep back in. He moved towards her, but the cocoon pulsed stubborn, unyielding. "I'm here." Desperation filled his veins, and he could feel the shadows gathering again, biding their time. "What do I need to do?" He gripped the book in his hands, its weight heavy with untold secrets. "Free me," she murmured, the glow flickering in response. "But be careful, the darkness will do anything to keep me here." "I won't let it win," he vowed, channeling every ounce of love and fierce determination he could muster. The shadows hissed around him, enraged. With a shaking hand, he opened the book again. The pages glowed softly, the symbols shifting eerily to reveal new phrases cryptic and terrifying. "Together we fight, the bond must be tested." Luke felt his heart sink. It was all leading toward a sacrifice, but one he was willing to make. A frigid chill coursed through him as he focused on Emily, willing their connection to ignite, throwing every feeling he had into the air. "Emily, hold on." The cocoon of darkness thrashed violently, the melody morphing into a cacophony of shrieks as the shadows lashed out, desperate to snuff their light. "Luke!" she cried, panic flooding her voice as the cocoon flickered, threatening to extinguish. The darkness closed in, fierce as an angry ocean wave about to crash. Would they lose each other? And just then, as the room began to spiral again into chaos, a thought sparked in Luke's mind. What if love wasn't about sacrifice but about strength and unity? What if the shadows writhed closer, ready to consume them completely? "Emily, we need to create our own light," he shouted, wrestling against the impending despair. But would he figure out how before the dark embraced them both? The shadows' final rush surged forward, hungry and fierce. What would become of their love when they faced the darkness together? With the shadows closing in, Luke's heart pounded in sync with the frantic pulse of the cocoon. Every instinct screamed at him to save Emily, but the darkness clawed at his resolve, whispering chilling doubts into his mind. "Create our own light," he repeated the words to himself, drawing strength from their significance. Where could he find this light? "I love you, Emily," he shouted, the declaration rippling through the void. "Focus on us, Luke," she urged, her voice trembling. "Our memories, our moments, use them." Closing his eyes, he summoned every shared laugh, every stolen glance. The warmth of their first kiss danced in his mind, her hand fitting perfectly into his. He envisioned their dreams, the future they crafted together, vibrant and alive. As he opened his eyes, a brilliant white light began to form in the center of the clearing. Luke could feel the warmth radiating from it, both calming and invigorating. The shadows recoiled, hissing, skittering away from the growing glow. "It's working," he breathed, hope swelling in his chest. But the darkness remained relentless, thrashing against the brightness, fighting to extinguish it. Hold on," he shouted, determination sharpening his voice. He stepped forward, grounding himself in the light. It flickered, threatening to falter, but he pushed against it with everything he had. "We're together in this. Always." The shadows writhed, fierce and unyielding, but Luke fueled the light with his unshakable bond to Emily. Each memory he conjured made the light pulse more intensely. First their silly adventures, then the intimacy of quiet moments shared. Every scene from their past emanated tendrils of warmth, weaving them tighter together, but just as the light swelled, a thick, dark tendril darted toward him from the depths of the shadows. It coiled around his ankle, yanking him down as panic surged. Luke stumbled, his connection faltering. "No. Luke." Emily's cry echoed, full of worry and strength. "Together." He yelled back, grappling with the shadows grasping him, fighting against their pull. Reinforced by determination, he screamed, "We will not be torn apart." With a final surge, Luke yanked the book to his chest. Its pages rustled wildly, power swirling from within. Words ignited, weaving paths of light into the air, forming intricate patterns that spiraled outward. The brightness intensified, momentarily blinding him. "What are you doing?" Emily exclaimed, awe mingled with fear in her voice. We're intertwining our fates. He shouted, his heart racing with adrenaline. If this was what they needed to stand against the darkness, he would take that leap. He called forth every ounce of their love, every urge to protect and cherish, pouring it into the words on the pages. The darkness twisted, shrieking as it felt the light closing in. Tendrils retreated, dissipating under the brilliance. But then, out of the depths, a figure emerged, misty and ethereal, yet terrifyingly familiar. It was shaped like Emily but shadowed and distorted. Luke, you think you can save her? It mocked, a chilling imitation of her voice. You're just a fool caught in a web of dreams. A cold dread settled in Luca's stomach as he took a step backward. No, you're not her. Are you sure? The doppelganger grinned cruelly. What if I told you she never loved you at all? What if this is all a fantasy you've created in your mind to avoid the truth? Desperation clawed at Luca's chest. No, he wouldn't let the darkness sow doubt. You can't break us. He shouted, but the shadows twisted, and Emily's figure faltered momentarily. Would the real Emily be lost among the lies? The battle for their love was only beginning. Luke knew he had to confront this horrific version of Emily. But how much of the truth could he really handle? Emily, trust me. Just the thought of her brought a surge of light, but the shadowy figure only cackled in delight as the darkness rushed for him again, could feel it. This was about to turn deadly. Was this the end of their story? Or just the beginning of a darker struggle? The shadowy figure advanced, each step pulling the very light from the air, leaving a palpable chill in its wake. Luca's heart raced as he forced himself to stand firm. You're not Emily, he declared, his voice trembling but resolute. Am I not? The shadow smirked, highlighting the cruel mimicry of Emily's features. You built this illusion, after all. A fairy tale to escape your fears. Doesn't it feel comforting? Knowing me, knowing you could decide what's real? No. Luke shouted, shaking his head, desperate to reject the toxic allure of the doppelganger. He held the book close. With every passing second, his connection to the light grew weaker. The whispers of doubt teased at the edges of his consciousness, twisting familiar memories into distorted reflections. Emily loves me. He screamed, grounding himself, ready to fight. The tendrils around his ankle tightened, pulling him lower. There was no way he could fall. He couldn't abandon Emily now. With all his might, he gritted his teeth and tore the darkness from his ankle, feeling the phantom pain echo through his skin. I won't let you take her. A surge of warmth pulsed from the book, igniting the clearing with an intensity that shattered the oppressive gloom. The figure shrieked, momentarily stumbling back. Foolish boy. Love is not a weapon, it's a weakness. Ignoring her taunts, Luke focused. He summoned memories in vivid detail, the time they danced under the stars, her laughter ringing like a symphony. The way they would joke and tease each other, the quiet moments that spoke volumes in silence. These moments are real. He shouted into the darkness, pouring every ounce of his willpower into the light. They can never be taken from me. The brilliance around him flared, bright enough to dispel the shadows momentarily. But just as quickly, the figure regrouped, swirling around him with unholy speed. Luke felt the air thicken with despair, the shadows pushing against his resolve, tugging at his emotions. What are you really afraid of, Luke? Losing her, or admitting that you never had her? Shut up! Luke yelled, the words tearing from him like a wounded animal desperate to survive. He realized the twisted version was right about one thing. There was a part of him that feared the truth, the possibility that Emily's love might not endure against the weight of darkness. As if sensing his internal conflict, the figure lunged forward, lips parting in a horrific smile. You believe in your memories? Then let us see how clearly you can recall them. With a flourish, she thrust her hand toward him, plunging Luke into a torrent of fractured images, every moment of doubt, every argument, every silence that felt like a wall. Scream all you want, but you can't deny what is hidden in your heart. She howled, her voice echoing both Emily's and the simmering dread of his insecurities. Luke gasped, drowning in the memories crowded with shadows. Each doubt wrestled with his love, causing fissures in the brilliant light he had summoned. The edges of his vision blurred as uncertainty threatened to pull him under. "No, no. I remember the truth," he cried out. Just as the weight of despair threatened to crush him, Emily's voice reverberated in his mind, a beacon. "Luke. Fight for us. We are stronger together, remember?" Tears streamed down his face as clarity rushed through him. He was not alone, Emily was fighting with him from within the cocoon. He could feel her warmth kindling the fading light, revitalizing their bond. With newfound determination, Luke reached deeper into the book, his fingers brushing against the words that sang with empowerment. "I choose her," he shouted, casting the darkness away. The intensity of his love flared, illuminating the night. The female figure howled, shrieking in fury and despair. "No. You'll never escape me." As Luke pressed forward, empowered by love's fierce light, the shadows recoiled in terror, revealing glimpses of a pathway. But would this lead him closer to saving Emily or deeper into the abyss that threatened to consume them both? The clearing vibrated as he plunged. Ahead, the struggle not yet over. "Can you take the leap, Luke? Can your love prevail?" And just as he prepared to act, darkness rumbled, and the ground beneath him shook. Was this the moment they both had searched for, or a trap luring them into an even darker realm? The truth was still waiting to unfold. The ground bucked beneath him, sending shivers of fear up Luke's spine. He stumbled but fought to regain his footing, the light from the book swirling around him like a protective shield. "Emily!" he shouted, but the sound was swallowed by the rising chaos. The dark figure loomed, its glee palpable. "You think you can escape this? You think you can outrun your fears?" The shadows coiled around her powerful form, swirling like storm clouds ready to strike. "You've lived under their weight for so long. What makes you think that love can shield you now?" "No." Luke's voice tore through, raw and unyielding. He could feel Emily's spirit strengthening his resolve, a tether that stretched across the dark void separating them. "I have to believe." The words jolted the darkness, and a wrenching scream echoed through the clearing. The shadows writhed and clawed, but Luke held his ground. He pictured Emily, her radiant smile, the lightness she brought into his life. The memory shot into his heart like a lightning bolt, igniting fierce determination. Love can't be broken. He aimed the book towards the abyss, pouring hope and strength into every written word he could grasp. "I'll take on every shadow to bring her back." Suddenly, it was as if a dam burst within him. Bright light exploded from his hands, shooting toward the figure, forcing it back. A kaleidoscope of colors enveloped the area, and for a fleeting moment, the icy grip of despair faltered. "Do you think this is enough?" The figure spat, smirking through the radiant haze, but now it wavered, its form flickering. "You think mere love can withstand the truth of existence? The truth of your weaknesses?" With each claim, Luke felt the edges of his confidence fraying, but Emily's voice resonated deeper now. "Luke, we are stronger. Remember our promise?" The memories flooded back, each promise made on starry nights, the dreams interwoven like strands of a beautiful tapestry. He couldn't let despair take that away. That warmth ignited a fire in his chest, driving him forward. "I won't let go," he screamed, his voice mingling with the blast of light. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of anger and fear merging with his resolve. He felt a surge of energy, and at the center of it all, Emily stood alive, radiant, and fighting back alongside him. But the figure's laughter pierced through, cold and serpentine. "You think I can be banished so easily? You are a fool. This is merely the beginning." With one fluid motion, the shadow lunged, ripping through the brilliance to clutch Luke's wrist. Pain shot through him, a raw, biting sensation that spread to his core. Panic clawed at his throat, squeezing until he could barely breathe. "Emily." He gasped, feeling the warmth of their connection fade. The shadows began to crawl back around him, pulling him down. The ground shook, a threatening void looming beneath. Fight, Luke. Fight with everything you have. In a heartbeat, another burst of light surged from the book, intertwining with the warmth of their bond. Together, they fused into a protective barrier, pushing against the dark force, but the struggle wasn't over. Just when Luke thought he was winning, the figure ripped away part of the brightness, revealing a chilling truth, the worst fear he could face. You can't hold on to her, it taunted. What happens when you find out this was all a lie? As dread gripped him, his grip on the light began to falter. The connection with Emily flickered, the path he fought for beginning to slip away. Luke, the darkness rumbled deep in its core. Are you truly prepared for what you might find? The air crackled with tension, the shadows crawling closer while the clearing lurched, blurring the line between reality and illusion. Luke took a deep breath, heart pounding wildly against his chest. Was the truth lurking just beyond the light? The choice was his: fight further or fall into the abyss. Would he dive deeper into this chaos to brave the darkness, or risk everything, all in the name of love? The moment of choice was ready to explode, shattering every illusion that had chained him down, and the truth was waiting to unveil its nightmare. The shadows tightened their grip around Luke, pulling him closer to the edge of despair. He could feel the darkness wrapping around him, suffocating every flicker of hope. Emily's face flashed before him, bright and vivid, urging him to remember the warmth of their shared moments. He fought back, gritting his teeth, willing the light to shine brighter. Get away from me, he roared, feeling the pulse of the book in his hands. It was a lifeline, tethering him to Emily and their love. He could hear her voice blending with the chaos, stronger now, echoing in the recesses of his mind. Remember, Luke. We're not just a memory. We're a force. The dark figure writhed in annoyance, its laughter mocking his struggle. What a quaint little story you've built. But love is just a delusion. You're nothing without it, nothing without her. Every word struck him like a dagger. Luke felt the despair clawing at his insides, but he rebutted with every ounce of strength he could muster. You're wrong. Love is real, and it's more powerful than any darkness. Harnessing that conviction, he focused on the book, and a new surge of energy crackled alive within him. The air shimmered, electricity energizing every fiber of his being as he shouted, I will not be trapped by your lies. Suddenly, a luminous beam shot from the pages, illuminating the surrounding chaos. The shadows recoiled, the glimmer of light puncturing their facade. Luke felt a rush, a tide of hope washing over him. This was more than just a fight, it was a revelation. Emily, he cried out, sensing her presence infusing the light with an unwavering strength. We are stronger together. Together. She echoed in his mind, the connection igniting. It was as if their souls were intertwined, and each heartbeat was a whisper of love strengthening the barrier between them and the encroaching darkness. Yet, the figure hovered, relentless. You're just delaying the inevitable. Unravel the truth, and what you find will shatter you, Luke. With every word it spoke, Luke could feel the grasp of fear tightening around him again. He dared not look into the shadows, it would reveal all the doubts floating in the back of his mind. What if it was right? What if he wasn't strong enough? But as the light flickered and dimmed, a familiar warmth ignited within him. The memories of laughter, kisses, and promises threaded through his heart like a lifeline. He pictured them running through the fields as children, hand in hand, dreams intertwining like vines climbing a trellis. I cannot lose you, Emily, he shouted, igniting the light once more. Not now. Not ever. Resilience surged, and Luke pushed back against the shadow, each thought flooding his mind with clarity. Even if I'm broken, I would rather fight than succumb to your lies. The figure's smirk faltered, its form flickering as it clawed at the dissipating light. For a split second, victory seemed possible, but the shadows roared back with a vengeance, consuming the glimmer of hope. Do you think you can resist the truth forever? It snarled, a smirk returning as if it had caught him in a trap. The weight of the looming reality crushed down on Luca's chest like an iron weight. What awaited him within the darkness? The revelation could unravel everything he held dear, and maybe he wasn't ready for that kind of truth. But before he could falter, the ground shook violently again, shaking his thoughts. The barrier they had created began to crack, fraying at the edges like an unreliable thread. The figure lunged forward, and Luke prepared for the onslaught, knowing one thing for certain. He couldn't stand alone against it. Then, in a moment of clarity, he shouted back, "I refuse to let fear dictate my fate." And with that declaration, something shifted within him. Luke felt warmth rush in, bolstering him against the shadows as he steeled himself for whatever was to come. They'd fought this far, and he would not back down now. As the darkness pressed in, he could almost see the truth lurking just ahead, waiting to reveal its darkest secrets. Would he walk into that unknown, or would the weight of despair pull him under? The clash between light and dark reached its peak, and as the shadows surged forward, Luke stood poised at the precipice of an unimaginable truth. What would he uncover when the darkness finally drained away? Would he be ready for the answer waiting in the depths? The air crackled around Luke as the darkness surged one last time, the shadows wrapping around him as if trying to crush the very spirit that fought so hard to stand against them. He took a deep breath, feeling the heat of his love for Emily burning bright in his chest, refusing to let fear take hold. "Emily," he yelled, pushing through the swirling blackness that threatened to consume him. "I love you. No matter what happens, I'm not letting you go." The shadows writhed and hissed, but his words sliced through the chaos, igniting hope within him. A ripple of light spread from the book, warming the air as it intertwined with his determination. The figure, twisted and shadowy, watched him with cold eyes, brimming with malevolence, but Luke felt the light strengthening, fueled by his unyielding hope. "You think you can break this connection?" the dark figure taunted, its voice echoing with sinister delight. "What happens when the truth is revealed?" Luke clenched his fists, standing firm. "I'm ready to face the truth. I know what we share is real." His voice resonated through the shadows, reverberating off walls that threatened to close in. With every ounce of courage, Luke stepped toward the figure, forcing the light to expand around him. Love is powerful because it reveals who we truly are, flaws and all. It's worth fighting for. The shadows recoiled, uncertainty flashing in the figure's eyes as the brilliance grew fiercely. "You can't escape your past. You fear losing her." But in that moment, Luke felt the presence of Emily enveloping him. Igniting memories began to float around them, warm laughter, soft whispers of love, the way they felt when their hands touched. "No," Luke shouted defiantly. "My past cannot tarnish what we created." A fierce light exploded from the book, thrusting through the darkness. The shadows shrieked, thrashing wildly as they struggled to maintain their grasp. "Feel that? That is our bond," Luke cried, feeling Emily's warmth burning with him. "You don't scare me." The figure lunged again, but Luke braced himself, pulling forth everything within him, his fears, his joys, binding them into a single radiant essence of love and defiance. The shadows screeched, wrapping around the brilliant light, clawing at its brilliance but acknowledging the threat it posed. "More!" Luke shouted into the dark, channeling his strength. "You can't take her away from me." In that moment, the walls of fear began to shatter like glass. The shadows buckled beneath the power of their love, and Luke's heart hammered in his chest. The light surged, bright enough to envelop everything, cracking through the agony and doubt. With each heartbeat, the shadows dwindled, their shrieks growing fainter as the radiance pounded like thunder through the depths of the mansion. Finally, Luke found himself face to face with the figure, dark, twisted, but showing cracks against the glowing brilliance. "You can never stop love," he cried, aware of his own trembling hands but stronger than ever. "Our love makes me who I am." "You think you're victorious," the figure sneered, but it wavered, trembling as the light fell over it like a heavy cloak. "You forget your greatest fears lie within." "You're wrong." Luke shouted. Whatever my fears are, they've made me fight for something real. In a final explosion of luminous energy, the shadows twisted and howled, impossibly vast and insatiable. Yet, Luke felt Emily rush beside him, flickering like a candle ignited by the force of his unwavering love. Together, Luke, she shouted, her voice coiling around him, and the echoes of his heart spurred the light on, blanketing them both. As the light surged, the darkness erupted. A tempest of swirling shadow fought valiantly to hold on, but the force was overwhelming. No, it cried, lashing out one last time. But Luke felt a sense of relief wash over him, a surge of energy he had never known. The darkness shattered, revealing pieces of it breaking away into dust, scattering into oblivion, and then, silence, Luke gasped, standing strong as light enveloped him, warmth cascading around him like a soothing blanket. When the light settled, he opened his eyes, suddenly engulfed in an unfamiliar brightness. There she was, Emily, standing before him, unharmed, her face illuminated by the soft glow. The shadows retreated, defeated. Tears streamed down her face, but they were not of sorrow. They were of joy, alive with the essence of their love. Luke, she whispered, and the depth of her gaze shattered any lingering doubt in his heart. We did it, he breathed, collapsing into her embrace. You're safe, we're safe. I knew you could do it, she murmured, holding him tightly, their tears mingling in the glow of their triumph. The mansion around them transformed into a sanctuary, old walls shedding centuries of darkness, revealing vibrant colors and the essence of hope. The secrets whispered in the wind sprouted like flowers of light, unearthing the beauty hidden behind years of pain. Together, they faced the dawn, standing shoulder to shoulder, ready to confront whatever the future would bring. The dark past was behind them, the bonds of love remained unbreakable. Together, Luke affirmed, squeezing her hand. And as they stepped into the light hand in hand, victory filled the air, announcing to the world that love always prevails. Now it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. It's time to smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. It's crucial for us to keep bringing you these adventures. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this shocking conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful ending. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.